welcome to you. We are here today to speak with the creator, the mastermind, the beautiful girl behind Mind Soul Meditations. And I get to honorably say that she's my friend and colleague, Charoa.
Oh,
I'm so
thank
stoked.
you.
All right, so Charoa is an artist whose work seamlessly merges the digital with timeless, drawing from a range of disciplines that are not limited to AI imaging, but also embody the rich textures of Renaissance and historical elements. Her creations are conversational between the future and past, blending cutting edge technology with periodical aesthetics to reimagine the world as a space where innovation and tradition coexist. Through her art, channeling beauty, introspection, and a profound connection to soul and spirit. Your work spans a wide range of mediums. How do you find inspiration for your pieces? And how do you decide which medium to use for that inspiration?
In terms of where I find inspiration, I would say a lot of it goes right back to this past January. I've been on a journey of self-discovery. I had an opportunity with a friend to do some journaling, really dive in to myself and who I am and who I want to be. And so through that, I decided to do the challenge as art. So for 30 days, I spent some time, a lot of introspection to dive into my soul and the things that have been going on in my life. And that's where I started finding a lot of the source of my inspiration. I started with a 30-day collection called 30 Days of Pain, and that allowed me to sort of open up and blossom a little bit. So I find sometimes I go into the dark, sometimes I go into the light, but it brought me to a place where I really want to be inspirational and share positive journey that I had with mental health through art. So that led to working with Audacity and getting a show for art therapy with Mind Soul Meditations. My first widely recognized piece is the one that you have right now, which Be Bold is actually inspired by she has gone through a lot of mental health struggles herself. Um, and she was off to university, afraid of going off to university. And I really want to connect with her and let her know that, everything's going to be okay. And so Be Bold was formed from that and the message that I want to share with her, to go out there and just be her biggest, boldest self and to really embrace the world.
So, what's interesting about this is you art journaled, and this is a depiction of what that looks like. This is stunning to me.
Oh, my pleasure.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
I think with the art journaling, like really, taking what's happening with you today and using that as your inspiration. Uh, you don't know what colors you're going to go into, you don't know what style you're going to go into, but as you work through it, you find just that perfect piece, that perfect style, that perfect message it just embodies, and you can look at it and you're like, that's what's going on inside. That's what I'm feeling. And it's like you can take whatever, it could be trauma, it could be joy, whatever emotion that is, you get to lock it into a piece of artwork and it releases some pressure. It can release anxiety. And then you can come back and look at it and go, yeah, okay, I recognize that. I remember that. I know what that's about. But you can sort of detach a little bit of that trauma, that discomfort, that pain that you may have had. Um, or you can memorialize the joy, and then, so there it is. And you get to hang on to that. And that's something really precious.
You've walked us through your creative process, but can you provide us with the perhaps the initial concept to the piece of art? And essentially, we're going to move into these two pieces of work that are entitled Love is Blind and Winds of Change. And if you could also maybe tell us a little bit about the technique and tools that you used in creating these pieces.
So Love is Blind was created with Midjourney. So what I was looking to do was sort of combined something a little surreal. I want to have the sort of real looking background, but a vintage photo to show that love is timeless. I like to be a little weird. I'm just going to be honest. So I was putting a little bit of my weirdness in there. This one was created by blending a bunch of different images that I brought together along with a style reference. So in Midjourney, we have the ability to use different style references to sort of put a specific sheen or flavor to your artwork. So I used a little bit of that here. And then, of course, brought it out into Photoshop to fix it up and finalize it.
I
Thanks.
love the antiquity of it. When you processed this through Midjourney, how many times did it take you to actually come up with
Oh my
this
God.
final? And the most important question, how did you get five fingers?
Actually, I didn't. Honest to God, I didn't. That's where it went to Photoshop. So, yeah, it took a lot of iterations. I did a lot of manually repainting fingers, and rebuilding them, uh, just to get a final hand. And then even then, like it wasn't 100% perfect. I mean, but then I took it into upscale. So for me, I use Kriya to do upscaling because it's cost effective in my opinion. And then when I ran it through to touch up the image and to give it a little bit more realism, it helped also improve the quality of the hand. So this is a politically based image. I live in Canada, but we are very much affected by the politics of the United States. And it's pink because it's about women and women's rights. So she is marching for women's rights in this image, and it's Roe v. Wade. So winds of change to me came at a time when the change for Kamala Harris came. Um, and I really felt optimistic and felt like there was a possibility to see some of this horrific stuff that's going on right now because Roe v. Wade was overturned. I think she's the wind of change. And so the power, the positivity, the joy that's coming behind her, that's what this piece was for me, actually. So I think that she's the wind of change.
I am so, so, so extremely happy to know you and that you created this. This is, to me, this, I had no idea. I had no idea the story behind this. And really, this is such an important piece of work for that, right? And
Well, thank you.
I'm so, so happy to know that there's another artist out there that is completely aware of her surroundings and that is trying,
Yeah.
trying to use art as a statement to perhaps dissuade an idea. You've been actively involved in virtual exhibitions and projects related to artificial intelligence. How do you
Mhm.
see the future of AI in art, and what role do you see yourself playing in this ever evolving field?
Really important. There's a lot of different ways that we can look at it. I mean, it makes the artist's life better in the sense that you now have this tool to bang out your ideas, to act like your muse, to give you inspiration. Because I'm constantly like testing out new things, and I have no idea some days where I'm going. But on top of that, we have another layer, and that's what I'm doing with mental health, is that here you have a tool that somebody was like, well, I'm not really good at art. First of all, there's no such thing as not being good at art. Art.
That's right.
So but with her, you can feel empowered because you're producing something. You're like, hey, that's not half bad. And I made that. I used my words, my thoughts, my ideas, and I brought this picture to life. And I'm pretty proud of this. So it's extremely empowering. And if you're using that in sort of your self-discovery, your mental health as a journey, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing what you can accomplish with it. So it's a fantastic tool. And I think it's only going to get better and it's going to be, um, give it time to be embraced. I mean, nobody was fond of Photoshop when it first came out because they're like, oh, fake pictures, like they were very opposed to it. And now Photoshop, it's like, man, it's Photoshop. Everybody knows Photoshop.
Yeah,
And this is
yeah.
this this is the same path it's going to take. So people will be opposed at first, but when they recognize the value that it brings it's just going to be another tool in the toolbox and be widely embraced.
I truly believe that AI is not the villain. It just isn't. It's just another
No.
way to express. All right, so here we have these two works of art. The first one, or the one on my left, which is probably your right, is Ashamed. And the next piece is Monster. Share with us your most vulnerable moment in the creation of these two pieces, because obviously this is talking, to me, it talks about vulnerability, but share with us what you had in
Oh
mind
yeah.
when you created this.
So I'm going to start with Monster because that's one of the earlier pieces on my journey. Monster was actually part of my 30 days of chronic pain. And that one actually is very, very personal. So Monster was created before I found a treatment solution that really worked. Like it can be really difficult. You don't sleep well, you're constantly agitated. And I was basically always in a foul state when I was suffering with pain a lot and not really sleeping. And so I was very sharp-tongued. And that impacts, I've got 3 kids and I'm married. So everyone around me had to suffer me constantly being in a bad mood. And as a mom, and this is how I'm treating my kids, that was horrifying. Monster was very much that recognition of who I was in those moments and how ashamed I was to have behaved in that way. I was the monster in my children's lives when I was behaving that way. Ashamed was part of a study of like sketching and watercolor and using a new technique when I was in mid-journey trying out some new things. Ashamed is actually part of a series, some of the different emotional spectrum that we go through, just to sort of bring that conversation to light. So I want to share that vulnerability. Let's look at this in art and let's recognize it for what it is and let's have a conversation. So I have a series in that same style that are all about negative emotions, accepting that this is, it's okay to look at it and connect with it.
My favorite work, I have to say, of everything that I've seen thus far that you've done is Monster. And obviously the reason is there. I don't need to
Mhm.
antiquate what it is. It's visually one of the most captivating pieces of AI work to date have ever seen. I could actually see this as a part of a series in real life collection.
She was at in New York at the Oculus, part of a mental health show through Metabetties.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece of work. It's just stunning. To me, Ashamed appears as though this was digitally drawn with watercolor inserted through it. Blown away by both of these pieces that these were done in AI. Can you elaborate a little bit on what does a day look like in your life? From the moment that you wake up to the end of the day, can you just talk us through the work play balance in your life? Because we have to be able to, we can't just do art all day, although I tend to
Love to.
try.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to try.
Mhm.
But we have to balance it out with like take a breath, get out and go play for a second.
My morning would not start without coffee. So definitely I'll go through my feeds, my socials. I might start working on my prompt of the day because that's something that I do on Twitter and Farcaster. Honestly, it's not until about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning that I really sit down and get going because I might have emails and whatnot that I'm answering in the meantime. Because I also run a business. So I have a consulting business, create websites, I do graphic design. I also am a business mentor for women in the holistic industry. Always, always multitasking. In the summer, I have a garden, so that's a great thing because as I have take the chance to go outside and check on the garden, maybe water the garden, maybe pick some vegetables. So that's part of my summertime getting out. In the winter, not so much. I am not into that and into the winter at all. Um, where I live, we're very rural. I'm up against the forest, so we have a lot of wildlife. So we have our outdoor pets. So that's actually kind of a nice thing. We'll go out, we'll feed the jays, we'll feed the squirrels, the chipmunks. We get a rabbit that comes by. We have a gopher that comes by. So yeah, we have our outdoor pets, some of which stay like the jays and The squirrels are there through the winter as well, so we'll go out and feed them a couple times during the day. My evenings are usually just relaxing with my husband. I might hop on for a little bit to do stuff, but we've sort of set a rule that 9 o'clock is mom and dad time. It's just for us.
That's a good rule. I think at the end of the day, the work is, although it's fantastic and it's beautiful that we get to do some work, I don't think that that's something that, say, if you were lying in your deathbed, that you would think of and go, dang, I wish I would have worked more.
Yeah, right?
In a way, you described these three images that we're looking at: Strange Planet, Super Chief Beauty, and I don't know what the name of this one is. Sunflower in the Garden, I imagine. Yes, the Garden Hour. So, in a way, you described all of this in talking about what it looks like in your day. I mean, you talked about the garden, you talked
Yep.
about creation, and then you talked about the beauty of your relationship between you and your husband. So I love that in a roundabout way, we just sort of closed in on
Touched
this.
on all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Your art addresses a lot of social justice and support. How do you actually decide when it's time to talk about those things in your artwork? Like, is it the call to artists that actually brings that about in you, or is this something that you are reliant upon?
Times it has to do with an open call. Rarely though, because most of the art that I really make that I want to cherish in my collection, it has something to do with my mental state, what's going on with my family, what's happening in the news, a conversation I may have had, like have conversations with my husband or with my eldest daughter about social issues. So we'll talk about things like LGBTQ, trans rights. My daughter is of African descent. She's my biological daughter. My first husband was African. She struggles where we live because our community is predominantly white. And so she kind of sticks out a little bit. She's treated differently. Actually, if you look at the first picture here with bioluminescent tears, she has an afro because my daughter has an afro. And just the struggles that she's gone through because she's been different and she's been treated differently. I'm actually really pleased that she's away at university now where she has more of a diverse community and she can, meet new people and blend a little bit better. But she's had a lot of struggles. And so these are conversations that we've had. And one of the ways that I can communicate with my daughter, because she's not such a great communicator in some respects, is with art. The art that I make for her as part of our conversations, it helps her understand that I know how she's feeling. There's things taking place in the world right now that are disturbing. And even if, like, for example, the one we talked about earlier with abortion rights, that doesn't impact me today, but it's going to impact my daughter. And I have an even younger daughter after that. And even though I'm in Canada, those conversations and those attitudes towards women's rights and bodily autonomy are trickling into our country. So it's important to me to find a way to be a bit of an activist because it's always been a part of who I am. I mean, when I was at university, I worked for the Center for Feminist Research and I was very involved in a lot of feminist activism. And later now in life, I don't really have that same opportunity. So this is my way to contribute to that conversation. And my hope is that the artworks that I create do spark conversation, not necessarily with me, but when somebody looks at it and, they're sharing that experience with somebody, they talk about what's happening in this artwork and it, further propagates that conversation.
Let's talk about curation and exhibitions. Which of the projects or exhibitions you've curated have been the most meaningful to you and why?
The work that I've done with the 34 Gallery with Samuka Africa. So I've done curation for them. I've been in numerous of their open calls that I've been selected. So these are a couple of the pieces that had been submitted there. Baptism in the River is actually one of my all-time favorite pieces. It's actually traveled around the world, but it was first picked up by 34 Gallery when we were talking about mental health. And that's the whole point behind 34 Gallery, as you know, is for the United Nations mandate for mental health and working with youth in how to use art to cope with mental health struggles. So it's been absolutely amazing working with them. So these are some of those pieces, but I've also had the privilege of being able to curate twice. Everything that they stand for is exactly what I'm doing. To be published within their network has been a fantastic opportunity.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. It's a wonderful community, and I wish that there was a louder voice for that group. And I think
Yeah.
that the more encouragement, the more eyes on that platform, perhaps the bigger possibilities of change could occur.
hmm
This is a fun question. Who is your biggest artistic influencer and why?
Influencer modern or past?
Well, apparently you have submitted some imagery that depicts both. So here we are. What's going on with these gorgeous, gorgeous pieces of work?
My original love of art started when I was little. My parents used to have all these books and like the sun porch, and there was these books that were full of paintings. But one day, as I'm flipping through this, I discovered a particular painter named John Constable, and the painting was the cornfield. And it was just this magic when looking at this artwork because there was just all of this sunlight and it was so vivid and it was almost like a photograph, but not. It was clearly painted. And it just struck me that this is what art can be. Like it can be this magical. And that was absolutely inspiring for me. So that was probably a point when I sort of started try doing a little bit more of realism. By the time I got to high school, it was more, uh, I was sort of coming into a little bit of my power. And so Georgia O'Keeffe was absolutely my favorite because she just represented so much for women's empowerment. So uh, that was a big influence for me at the time. But then as I've evolved, like there's certain things that I really am drawn to. I do like sort of an older classical kind of look with the blend of some of the digital, which is what Sublime is. So that's what she's about. But I also like to put just my weirdness and my chaos into art. And I love messiness and abstract, not so much into the cubism and that sort of thing, but I just, tossing paint and slapping paint on, that feels raw and real to me, a primal feeling in creating art that I really have an appreciation for.
These works are really very elegant. Divided, it's an example of what I enjoy doing as a painter. And I love the controlled chaos that that particular piece brings to light in a digital realm. And I absolutely love what you did in Sublime. And I'm not, obviously this was done in Midjourney, but like, did you have to prompt the highlights, the neon glow to that? Or like, how did that come about? Because really, I'm mystified by this piece because although it does look like something from the Renaissance period,
Yeah,
but it's also very
clearly,
modern.
yeah, it's
How
clearly
did you do
digital.
that?
Well, that's just it, is I was blending sort of some more classical styles, and then in my prompt, I had it overlay
Mhm.
on my image, sort of light effects.
Nice.
Um, so that's where that comes from, and that's um, I could I can always send you the prompt for that one.
Love it.
But
It's
yeah,
beautiful.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I did a whole series where I was just playing with like,
Light.
throwing this bioluminescent type of light on something that's absolutely classical, and it's just like gives it a whole other edge.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. Beautiful work. So, are there any upcoming projects or ideas that particularly excite you? And what new directions are you exploring in your work? And obviously, these pieces that I'm going to share with you right now are going to hopefully tell us about what it is you're doing.
Well, these are part of a set that I call my Cronenberg Lovecraft series. I've done a number of different pieces. So yeah, I've been working with a lot of neon and a little bit bizarre. But I really love the vividness of like these neon kind of tones, these bright tones. I guess I'm in a happy place. I still want the weird, but I want the bright colors at the same time. So I've been tapping into that a lot more. But I want to say, like you, I'm also gotten into a little bit more of landscapes, and you can see a little bit of that in the two steps forward, one step back, is that I've actually started going into a new area of artwork, which is generative art.
Explain to us, what is generative art? For those of us who don't know what that means, what is that?
Computer code. The artworks themselves are very much abandoned places. So it's very abstract, landscape, lots of different lighting. And what I'm doing is imagine there's two images layered one on top of the other.
Mhm.
And gradually one is being erased to reveal the other. And then it
Got it.
goes into a loop. The code is what's erasing more or less the one picture to reveal the second one. My idea is I want to make this imagery that it's almost a meditation, that you can sit and when your mind is just clouded or stressed or in the wrong place, you can sit and look at this artwork and watch as it slowly transitions. And it doesn't transition like, one line at a time. It's completely random. And every time you look at it, it's completely different. So you just watch as it randomly starts removing. And because the two pictures are complementary, it's almost like as it removes it, it's creating a new artwork every second, every second. It's constantly a new artwork because the two blend together so well.
That's fantastic. I love that you come from this technological background anyway, so AI just it's suitable for you. Do you, in closing here, because we're near the end here, do you have any advice that you would like to share with emerging artists, people that have never even touched upon AI, or people that are seeking to perhaps get involved? What would you like to say to those people?
I would say, start off with something, some free tools and see what feels right for you. See what creates the type of imagery that you want. Create something every day and just don't give up. Learn about the art communities, whether that be on Farcaster or Twitter or on Hug or Join. There's a number of different art communities available out there. Submit your artwork and don't worry about being rejected. We were all rejected when we started. It doesn't, no, but the thing is, it's really important because people get so discouraged, right? I know I did when I first started. I was so discouraged that my art was never ever being chosen. And the best advice I got is from a friend of mine who's also in the art world, and she said, You'll get chosen. Just
Yeah,
you got to keep on trying
keep
because
moving.
your art is evolving with you. So you're going to learn as you go along. You're going to see what's being selected. So there might be some influence there. But even if not, your art is yours. And in time, as you're building your brand and sharing your art, you're building who you are and what your art is. And when it comes in front of the right set of eyes, it'll be chosen because every curator is looking for something different, has a different vision, and today might not be that your art is what fits that vision, but tomorrow it will be. So you've just got to keep on submitting and your time will come and it really, really will.
You put together a collection of 30, is it 30 artists for
It's
30 days?
30 episodes. So it's a 30-day challenge. So basically what I went through where we all started at this conversation is that I want to bring other people to try it as well. So I've set up a 30-day challenge. So it's 30 episodes. I did some open calls to invite artists within the art community to submit their interpretations of the subject. And then it concludes with a lesson on how to prompt and how to create AI art. My show will be coming out, Art Therapy with Mindful Meditations. That'll be through the Audacity Network. So I'm in heavy editing right now. So I just want to encourage anyone who's watching, when that comes out, keep an eye out on Audacity and come and check that out as well.
Wow, thank you so much, Tarua, for sharing your incredible journey with us today and your insights. This
Thank you.
dedication to blending art and technology with such depth and soul is it's an inspiration to me as an artist and as a friend. So thank you again. And for anybody else that's watching, thank you all for watching.
Thank
And
you.
until next time, keep creating, keep reflecting, keep pushing boundaries, and don't forget to eat a cookie. Forget to eat a cookie. It's so important. Thank you.
Thanks.